What's up, everybody? Garrett chatting with Falcons on SI, back with another training camp recap video. Day 12 has come and gone. It was also day 2 of the joint practices with the Tennessee Titans. And in case you were living under a rock, Michael Penix was the story of the day. Yeah, in case you didn't hear. He'd been talking some trash today, and the Tennessee Titans got a little sick of it, and they let him hear it too. And he took front to whatever they said. Whatever they said is going to remain a mystery, because we asked Michael Penix after practice today, and he says he blacked out. Said he doesn't remember, but all we do know is that Michael Penix threw a long touchdown pass to Ray McLeod, turns around and says something to the Tennessee Titan defender, and they took offense to it. Turns into a big old melee. All of a sudden, Michael Penix is the bottom of a dog pile, and the entire Falcons roster came to his aid. So the biggest thing for me with all of this is that, well, Michael Penix is a dog first and foremost, but the entire Falcons roster has his back. And it was very quick. It was maybe over the course of like 5-10 seconds, and the entire facility seemingly poured out onto the field. And it was a sight to see. Then Drake London lost a helmet. He came from the far side of the field. Ray McLeod came from the other end zone. He just caught the long 50-yard touchdown pass, and he was in the middle of it in moments. Caden Ellis and company, they were over on the opposite field. They spilled out over onto the field. It turned into a massive mess. It took several minutes to clean everything up and kind of get like a hold of everything that's going on. But it was just a play later that Caleb McGarry and Chris Lindstrom tag teamed a Titans defender on the next play, and Caleb McGarry somehow lost a helmet. So it was a very physical day. It was a very physical day. Casey Washington got into it with another Titans player during the special teams drill, but it was something that felt like it was coming for a while. It very nearly got to that point at times yesterday in the first joint practice, and it never really quite reached that level. Raheem Morris said pre-practice that the Falcons and Titans alike did a very good job of kind of getting it up to that level, but not quite taking it up over the top. Because this is football at the end of the day. Like it's a very competitive sport, and guys are going at it. Brandon Dorlus talked about how these other guys are coming into your place and trying to take your money. And that's effectively what they're trying to do. And that's just sort of the mentality that these guys have. But as far as Michael Penix is concerned, that's a guy who, I mean, he's going to stand his ground. He's a guy who's going to talk a lot of smack. We've heard a lot of the other players talk about how he talks some smack. And you know, when it's your quarterback and it's your team, that's one thing. But when it's a different team coming in there, that certainly is a completely different thing entirely. But Caden Ellis, after practice, called it competitive greatness from Penix. He says it's something you have or it's something you don't, and that Michael Penix really does have it. Not that he's like a violent or someone who really wants to seek out that kind of conflict, but it's somebody who is not afraid to back down from a fight. And that's kind of the guy who the Falcons have needed for a little while, and they haven't had that guy under center in some time. So at least since Matt Ryan was here, where it's like you consistently have a guy who you can lean on to kind of lead your offense and do everything like that. I mean, because he's going to be the 5th starter under center for the last 5 years or so. So they're looking to kind of build some of that consistency. Maybe this is something where the rest of the team is kind of showing that they're bought in with this new guy. But it's also just some competitive juices that are flowing. But I mentioned that it was a physical practice today. It was very physical leading up into this drill that ended up turning into the melee. The Tennessee Titans have been drawing a lot of penalties. I don't know who got in their ear necessarily. Maybe it was some leaders on the team. They did their media periods. They talked about how they needed to step it up. I saw members of their media on social media were making comments and tweeting things out about how the Falcons were winning the first day or so on and so forth. Kind of lent itself to a very physical day today. Lots of penalties were being thrown around. Titans are being very aggressive. I mentioned the penalties. You had they were punching at footballs. They were kind of playing through the whistle. And credit to them for that. They stepped in. They got beat yesterday, and they weren't messing around today. And they really made the Falcons feel it a little bit today. A lot more even, I would say, but there's no scoreboard in there, so you can't really tell if it's a winner or a loser. But ultimately, it's hard to come away from this joint practice period and not be very confident in what you saw from the Falcons up there at Flowery Branch. But ultimately, let's just jump into some of our individual reactions from things that we've seen both today and from the course of the last 2 weeks or 2 days. D. Alford today spent a lot of time with the ones. Nickelback position looks like it's far from over, but D looked very good today. Picked off a pass of Cam Ward. He had some splendid PBUs. Did have a PI. Got burned on a play, kind of got beat deep, but he basically just tackled the Titans wide receiver. But ultimately, I mean, he looked good. He looked good. He looked very, very good in coverage. That's not really where his big shortcomings are necessarily, but I'd more look at him as somebody who struggles in the running game and kind of playing up in that way. But just in terms of coverage, he looked fantastic today. And he spent a lot of time with the ones. Billy Bowman, I didn't see much of Billy throughout the course of the day. I mean, you're trying to balance everything. But Mike Ford was able to get in there, and he did get someone run with the ones as well. Casey Washington's another person who popped up. They may carry 6 wide receivers on this roster when it's all said and done. I mentioned that he got into it with a Titans player, but he was also looked pretty effective in just regular wide receiver play. Just in general, he had a 52-ish yard receiving touchdown yesterday, and then again today, Penix is looking to target him deep, and that's a relationship that's been really strong and something that's blossomed here over the course of training camp, but especially here over those last 2 days where you see him go up against somebody in a different colored jersey. They have a relationship that kind of spans a little bit further back than I would say most of these wide receivers do, just because these guys are drafted together. They went through rookie training camp together. They went through the rookie seminars together. They did everything together. And when they were doing install, Casey Washington made a point of texting Michael Penix, and they would go to the Flowery Branch parking lot and they would do walkthroughs. And that's how they kind of facilitated a relationship there. And Michael Penix talked about it after practice today, said that was a text that he would basically just expect after every install day, that he was going to get a text from Casey Washington because he wanted to be ready. Casey did when his moment came. And with Darnell Mooney going down with an injury earlier on in camp, really, literally the first day, Casey Washington got his chance. And to this point, Casey Washington has been ready. And he looks like he's going to be that final wide receiver on this roster. I'll get kind of a more of a in-depth roster evaluation probably on Thursday. So keep an eye out for that at GChatBTL on Twitter. I'll probably send that out as soon as I publish that one. So keep an eye out for that. But as far as the wide receiver position, Casey Washington looks like he's kind of slotted into that final spot. He's been battling it out with potentially David Sills, guys like that. Chris Blair, who got some run a little bit at the end of last year. But Casey Washington, it looks like it's his job to lose. 2 other things, and then we'll get going here. The offense largely looks solid over the last 2 days. Michael Penix wasn't quite as sharp today as he was yesterday, but he was still pretty good. I mentioned Casey Washington already, but Drake and Kyle both got plenty of run during these 2 days. London looks especially good. I mean, I said yesterday on the Falcons podcast that if you're a fantasy football owner, make sure you make a point to go and draft Drake London. He's probably going to get 200 receptions this year, or not 200 receptions, but he's going to get targeted like 200 times this year. And he's going to have a big year. He's a favorite target for Michael Penix. And then Kyle Pitts also got a lot of run. He got a lot of targets there, especially in the red zone. Maybe that's the potential there. We'll see. Hard to really tell anything from the rushing attack, though. Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, you're not going through the whistle. It's just part of a very important part of running the football is the physical contact that comes with it, but hard to really know what it actually looked like. But the defense also looked really good. The pass rush was getting a lot of pressure, and the secondary was a really big benefactor of that. I don't know how much of that had to do with the fact that Cam Ward is a rookie quarterback, and these are unscouted looks, and it's very uncomfortable for somebody who, especially somebody who's been on the road for the last 2 weeks, hasn't slept in his own bed in some time. So I wonder how much that had to do with it. But ultimately, the defense, I felt like, looked really good on everybody except for Calvin Ridley, who had his way with the Falcons secondary at times. I saw one play in particular where Calvin burns A.J. Terrell down the left sideline, scampers into the end zone, and has some words. I'm not going to share exactly what he says or what I think he said, but let's just say it wasn't super positive necessarily. But Calvin Ridley, I mean, he's a great player. He still got it. He's right at 30 years old, and it's been a little while since the ex-Falcons receiver has been at Flowery Branch, but he had a pretty good day, let's say, today. And I know he took some exception with some of the things the Falcons were posting on social media after the fact. But look, very busy practice day today. Lots of stuff going on. And look, this is a very big time for the Atlanta Falcons. We're going to move into the second preseason game coming up on Friday. So make sure to stay in tune with everything that we got going on. Give me a follow at GChatBTL on Twitter, and I'll keep everybody updated with that. But also make sure that you are following the site, making sure you're getting all of your content from there. Go to si.com/NFL/Falcons to get all of your Atlanta Falcons news. But till next time, my name is Garrett Chapman for Falcons on SI. Thanks so much for joining me. I will see you again on Friday for our recap video. Thanks.